My name is Miriam Brooks, and I was born under the hot Alabama sun, where the cotton grows thick and white as far as the eye can see. The land here is beautiful in a way that breaks your heart, because none of it belongs to us, though our hands made it what it is. I am 24 years old, though I've felt ancient since I was a child. My skin is the color of wet earth after rain. My hands are calloused from years of work, and my voice, well, Master Edmund Thornhill believed I had none at all. I live in a small cabin behind the big house, sharing the cramped space with 3 other women who work the fields. The walls are rough pine, and in winter the wind cuts through the gaps like knives. In summer, the heat sits heavy on our chests, making it hard to breathe. But it is ours, in the only way anything can be ours. We share our bread there, our tears, our whispered prayers when the darkness feels too heavy to carry alone. Master Thornhill inherited me along with his plantation when his father died 3 years ago. He is a man of 35, with pale eyes that look through you as if you were made of air. He speaks to his horses with more warmth than he has ever shown me. To him, I am less than the furniture in his parlor. At least the furniture required an investment of money and thought. I simply came with the house, like the wallpaper or the floorboards. He calls me to the big house each morning to serve breakfast to him and his wife, Constance. She is a delicate woman who reads French novels and complains about the heat. She has never once looked me directly in the face. When she needs something, she addresses the air above my head as if her words will float down to me like leaves from a tree. The tea is cold. The curtains need washing. Why must everything be so difficult? I move through their world like a ghost. I set the table with their fine china. I pour their coffee from the silver pot. I stand against the wall with my hands folded while they eat, ready to refill a glass or remove a plate. And I do not speak. Not because I cannot. God knows I have words burning in my chest like hot coals, but because speaking has never been safe. When I was 9 years old, I saw a woman named Ruth whipped for talking back. She had simply asked if she could visit her daughter on the neighboring plantation, the child who had been sold away when she was only 5. The overseer said she had a tone in her voice and insolence. They tied her to the post in the yard, and the whip sang through the air 15 times. I stood in the doorway of the cabin and watched, my small hands pressed against my mouth to keep from crying out. Ruth's screams echoed across the fields. Afterward, she couldn't work for a week. Her back was a map of suffering. I learned that day what it cost to have a voice. So I became silent. I perfected the art of invisibility. I learned to anticipate needs before they were spoken, to move efficiently and quietly, to keep my eyes lowered and my face blank as a winter sky. Master Thornhill appreciated this. At least this one knows her place, he told his wife once, while I stood 3 feet away, holding a pitcher of water. Not like some of them, always muttering and giving you looks. But silence is not the same as emptiness. Inside my head, I am never quiet. I think about my mother, who died when I was 12, worn down by grief and exhaustion. I think about my father, sold away before I could form memories of his face. I think about the hymns we sing on Sunday evenings, when old Joseph leads us in Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, and our voices rise together like birds escaping a cage. I think about freedom, though I barely know what the word means. I have never been anywhere but this plantation. The world beyond these fields might as well be the moon. Still, I dream. I dream of speaking my mind without fear. I dream of choosing where I go and when. I dream of owning my own time, my own body, my own breath. These dreams live in the silence Master Thornhill mistakes for acceptance. But lately, something has been shifting inside me. It started small, like the first crack in a dam. It was a Tuesday morning in late July. The heat was already oppressive at dawn, pressing down on everything like a wool blanket. I was serving breakfast, eggs, ham, biscuits, preserves, when Master Thornhill's cousin, Richard, arrived from Mobile. Richard Thornhill was cut from different cloth than Edmund. He was loud, coarse, always smelling of whiskey and tobacco. He slapped Edmund on the back and sprawled in his chair like he owned the place, which, in a way, I suppose he felt he did, being family and white and male meant owning everything, even things that weren't legally his. "Well, Edmund," Richard said, his mouth full of ham. "I see you've still got that silent one. What's her name again?" "Miriam," Edmund said, not looking at me. "Miriam," Richard repeated, turning in his chair to look at me with eyes that made my skin crawl. "Does she talk?" "She has no need to," Edmund replied. "She does her work." Richard laughed, a harsh sound like gravel in a bucket. "I like them quiet myself, though sometimes." He paused, his gaze traveling over me in a way that made me want to disappear into the wallpaper. "Sometimes you wonder what they'd say if they could. What do you think, Miriam? What would you say if you had a voice?" The room went silent. Constance looked up from her plate, her expression mildly curious, as if Richard had asked about the weather. Edmund's face hardened. "Richard, leave her be. She's just here to serve." But Richard wasn't finished. He stood up, walked over to where I stood against the wall, and stood so close I could smell the whiskey on his breath from the night before. "Come on, girl. Say something. You got a tongue, don't you? Or did they cut it out?" My heart hammered against my ribs. My hands, holding the empty pitcher, began to shake. Every instinct I had developed over 15 years of survival told me to remain silent, to look down, to wait for this moment to pass. But something else rose up inside me. Something I had pushed down so many times I thought it was dead. It was rage. It was dignity. It was the accumulated weight of every silenced word, every swallowed retort, every unspoken truth. I looked Richard Thornhill directly in his bloodshot eyes, and in that moment I knew. He thought I had no voice because I had chosen not to use it in front of him, but that was about to change. The moment stretched between us like a rope pulled taut, ready to snap. Richard's smile faded slightly as our eyes met. I suppose he wasn't used to being looked at directly by someone like me. There was a flicker of something in his expression, surprise maybe, or anger at my audacity. "What's this?" he said, his voice dropping lower. "You looking at me, girl?" Edmund rose from his chair. "Richard, that's enough. Miriam, you're dismissed. Go help in the kitchen." I lowered my eyes and left the room, my legs unsteady beneath me. But as I walked down the hallway toward the kitchen, I could hear Richard's voice carrying through the house. "You better watch that one, Edmund. There's something in her. I can see it. These quiet ones are the worst. Always thinking, always watching. They're the ones who run." In the kitchen, I set down the pitcher with trembling hands. Sarah, the cook, glanced at me with concern. She was older, maybe 50, with gray threading through her hair and a face that had learned to hide everything. "You all right, child?" she whispered. I nodded, not trusting my voice. But I wasn't all right. Something had broken open inside me, and I didn't know how to seal it back up again. That night, lying on my thin mattress in the cabin, I couldn't sleep. The other women breathed deeply around me, exhausted from the day's work in the fields. But my mind was racing, replaying the moment when I looked Richard in the eyes. It had lasted only seconds, but it felt like I had crossed an invisible line, stepped into territory I had carefully avoided all my life. I thought about my mother. Her name was Grace, and she had been beautiful once, before the work and the sorrow wore her down to nothing. She used to sing to me when I was small, her voice low and sweet. She sang about Jordan's river, about a home beyond this world, about wings that would carry us away someday. But she never talked about fighting back. She never talked about speaking up. She had learned, as I learned, that survival meant silence. But what kind of survival is it when you disappear piece by piece, word by word, until there's nothing left of who you really are? The days that followed were tense. Master Edmund watched me more carefully now, as if Richard's words had planted a seed of suspicion in his mind. I felt his eyes on me when I served the meals, when I cleaned the parlor, when I carried out the chamber pots. The weight of his attention was suffocating. And then, one afternoon in early August, everything changed. I was upstairs, changing the linens in the master bedroom. The windows were open, trying to catch any breath of air that might offer relief from the heat. I could hear Constance downstairs at the piano, playing something slow and melancholy. The music drifted up through the floorboards, beautiful and sad. I was smoothing the fresh sheet across the bed when I heard Edmund's voice in the hallway. He was speaking to someone, the overseer, Mr. Garrett, a man whose cruelty was legendary among us. "I want to sell the old man," Edmund was saying. "Joseph. He's past useful age, and I need the space in the quarters." My hands froze on the sheet. Old Joseph, the man who led our songs on Sunday evenings, whose voice could make you believe in heaven even when you were standing in hell. He was perhaps 70 years old, bent from decades of field work, but he was the heart of our community. "Yes, sir," Mr. Garrett replied. "There's a trader coming through next week.
He deals in cheap stock."
"Won't get much for him, but something."
"Fine.
"Make the arrangements. And Garrett, that girl Miriam, the house servant, I want you to keep an eye on her. My cousin thinks she's got ideas." "Want me to teach her a lesson, sir? Keep her in line." There was a pause. My heart stopped beating.
"No."
"Not yet. Just watch her. If she steps out of place, you have my permission to discipline her as you see fit. But I don't want her marked up. She's more useful without visible damage." "Understood, sir." Their footsteps retreated down the hallway. I stood alone in the bedroom, my hands still gripping the sheet, my whole body cold despite the oppressive heat. They were going to sell Joseph, and they were watching me, waiting for me to make a mistake, so they could hurt me. I thought I might be sick. I finished making the bed mechanically, my mind spinning. That evening, I told the others what I had overheard. We sat in the cabin after dark, our voices low, sharing the news like it was poison we had to swallow together. "They can't sell Joseph," Annie said, tears streaming down her face. She was young, maybe 19, and Joseph was like a father to all of us. "He's too old. Where would he go? Who would take care of him? That's exactly why they're selling him," Mary said bitterly. She was the most outspoken among us, the one who sometimes whispered about escape, about the Underground Railroad, about a place called North where people could be free. "He's old and used up. They'll sell him to someone who'll work him until he dies, and they won't have to feed him anymore." We sat in silence, the weight of our powerlessness crushing us. "We have to do something," I heard myself say. Everyone turned to look at me. I rarely spoke, even among them. "What can we do?" Sarah asked gently. "We got no power here, child. No voice. No choice." "But we do have voices," I said, and even as I spoke the words, I wasn't sure where they were coming from. "We just don't use them. We're afraid. I'm afraid. But what if we weren't?" "They'll kill you," Mary said flatly. "You speak up, you resist, and they'll make an example of you." You remember Ruth. I remembered Ruth. I would always remember Ruth. But I also remembered the look on Richard's face when I'd met his eyes. The surprise. The uncertainty. For just a moment, I had been real to him. Not furniture, not property, but a human being looking back at him. Maybe, I said slowly, they only have power over us because we give it to them. Because we stay silent when they expect us to stay silent. That's crazy talk, Annie whispered, frightened. Maybe it was. Maybe I was courting disaster. But something had awakened in me that morning in the dining room, and I couldn't put it back to sleep. Over the next few days, I began to pay attention in a new way. I watched how Master Edmund and Constance moved through the world, secure in their authority. I watched Mr. Garrett bark orders at the field workers, his voice loud and confident. I watched how everyone around me bent and bowed and swallowed their words. And I realized that our silence was part of what sustained them. Our voicelessness made their power possible. The question was, what would happen if I found my voice again? The moment came on a Thursday evening, 10 days after I'd overheard Edmund's conversation with Mr. Garrett. The trader had arrived that afternoon, a thin man with hard eyes who walked through the quarters looking at us like we were cattle. He'd examined Joseph, checking his teeth and his joints, and then he nodded to Edmund. The deal was done. Joseph would be gone by morning. That night, we gathered in the cabin as we always did, but the atmosphere was different. There was grief in the air, thick and heavy. Annie was crying quietly in the corner. Mary sat rigid, her jaw clenched. Sarah's hands moved mechanically, mending a shirt, but her eyes were distant. I couldn't bear it anymore. I'm going to speak to Master Edmund, I said. The room went silent. Everyone stared at me as if I'd announced I was going to fly to the moon. Miriam, no, Sarah said immediately. Child, you can't. It won't change anything. It'll only bring trouble on yourself.
She's right,
Mary said. What do you think you're going to say that'll make a difference to him? I don't know, I admitted, but I can't just do nothing. I can't watch them take Joseph away without even trying. They'll punish you, Annie whispered. Maybe, I said, but I'll punish myself worse if I stay silent. I stood up before I could change my mind. My legs felt weak. My hands were trembling, but I walked out of the cabin and across the dark yard toward the big house. The windows glowed with lamplight. I could see Edmund's silhouette in his study, bent over his desk. I had never approached the big house at night without being summoned. Never knocked on the front door. Never presumed to interrupt Master Edmund's evening. But I climbed the steps and knocked. There was a long silence. Then footsteps. The door opened, and there stood Edmund, his expression shifting from surprise to displeasure when he saw me. Miriam, what are you doing here? If something needs tending, it can wait until morning. This was the moment. I could apologize, back away, return to the cabin and the safety of silence. Instead, I heard my voice, my real voice, not the quiet murmur I used to acknowledge orders, but the voice I'd been hiding for 15 years say, Master Edmund, I need to speak with you.
please.
It's about Joseph. His eyebrows rose. You need to speak with me? Yes, sir. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might break through my chest. He stared at me for a long moment, and I saw the calculation in his eyes. He could slam the door in my face. He could call Mr. Garrett and have me whipped for my presumption. He could do anything he wanted, but curiosity won out. 5 minutes, he said, stepping back to let me in the study. Don't touch anything. I followed him down the hallway into the study, a room lined with books I would never be allowed to read, filled with furniture I had cleaned 1,000 times but never sat upon. He settled into his chair behind the desk and gestured impatiently for me to speak. I stood before him, my hands clasped in front of me to hide their shaking. Master Edmund, I know it's not my place to ask anything of you. I know I have no right to question your decisions, but I'm asking you, begging you, not to sell Joseph. He's old and he's tired, but he's important to us. He leads our prayers. He keeps our spirits up. Without him, something will die in us. Something you can't put a price on. Edmund's face was unreadable. You came here to tell me how to run my property?
No, sir.
I came to ask for mercy. Mercy, he repeated, as if tasting the word. And what makes you think you can ask me for anything? This was dangerous ground. I could feel the precipice beneath my feet, but I had come this far. Because I'm a human being, I said quietly, just like you. I have feelings. I have people I love. And Joseph, he's a person too. Not just property. He's someone who matters. The silence that followed was terrible. Edmund leaned back in his chair, studying me with an expression I couldn't read. Finally, he spoke. You do realize what you're doing right now, don't you? You're speaking to me as if you were my equal. As if your feelings and your loves and your opinions had any relevance to how I conduct my affairs. I know I'm not your equal in your eyes, I said, but in God's eyes. Don't, he cut me off sharply. Don't you dare bring God into this. You don't know anything about God's design. This is the natural order of things. I'm not cruel. I feed you, house you, clothe you. I could be far harsher than I am. And this is how you repay that kindness? By questioning my decisions.
Something shifted inside me then.
Maybe it was hearing him call our enslavement kindness. Maybe it was the weeks of accumulated pressure. Maybe it was simply that I had already crossed the line and there was no going back. Kindness. The word came out harder than I intended. Master Edmund, with respect, you don't know what kindness is. Kindness would be letting me own my own life. Kindness would be paying me for my work. Kindness would be asking me instead of telling me. You think you're kind because you don't beat me every day, but that's not kindness. That's just the bare minimum of not being a monster. The words were out before I could stop them. The room seemed to tilt. Edmund's face went pale, then flushed red with anger. How dare you, he said, his voice shaking. How dare you speak to me this way? I should have apologized. I should have begged forgiveness. But something had broken open in me, and I couldn't stop. You asked me once, no, your cousin asked, what I would say if I had a voice. This is what I'd say. I'd say that you've stolen my life from me. All of you. You've taken my mother, my father, my childhood, my choices, my freedom. You've taken everything except the thoughts in my head and the feelings in my heart. And even those you try to convince me don't matter. But they do matter. I matter. Joseph matters. We all matter, whether you see it or not. I was crying now, tears streaming down my face, but I didn't look away from him. So I'm asking you, I'm begging you to see us, to see him, to have actual kindness instead of just the absence of cruelty. Edmund stood up slowly, his hands pressed flat on the desk. I could see his jaw working, could see him struggling between rage and something else, confusion, maybe, or a glimmer of recognition he didn't want to acknowledge. Get out, he said finally, his voice cold. Get out of my house. Tomorrow you're going to the fields. You can work alongside the others and see how easy you've had it all this time. And if I hear one more word from you, one more word, I'll have Mr. Garrett teach you the lesson you clearly need to learn. I nodded, turned, and walked out. My whole body was shaking. I had done it. I had found my voice, had spoken my truth, had looked my oppressor in the eye and refused to be invisible. And it had changed nothing. Or had it? That night, I didn't sleep. I lay on my mattress waiting for Mr. Garrett to come, waiting for the punishment I knew must be coming. But the night passed quietly, and when dawn broke, I rose with the others and walked to the fields for the first time in my adult life. The work was backbreaking. Within hours, my hands were bleeding, my back screaming in pain. The sun was merciless. I understood, in my body, what the others had endured all these years while I worked in the relative comfort of the big house. By midday, I could barely stand. But something else was happening too. The field workers had heard what I'd done. Word travels fast in a place like this, where stories are our only currency. They looked at me differently now, with surprise, with concern, with something that might have been respect. During the brief rest at noon, Mary approached me with a cup of water. That was either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever seen, she said quietly. Maybe both. Did it change anything? I asked, my voice hoarse from the heat and exhaustion. She shook her head. Joseph's still being sold tomorrow. Edmund's still master. The world's still the same. Then it was stupid, I said. No, she replied, and there was something fierce in her eyes. No, it wasn't, because the rest of us heard about it. And if you can speak up, maybe we can too. Maybe that's how change starts, one voice at a time. That afternoon, as I bent over the cotton plants, my fingers clumsy and slow compared to the experienced workers around me, I saw Edmund riding through the fields on his horse, Mr. Garrett beside him. They stopped near where I was working. I could feel Edmund's eyes on me, though I didn't look up. Is she keeping up? Edmund asked Mr. Garrett. Barely. She's not built for field work. Slowing down the others in her row. Give her a week. If she doesn't improve, send her back to the house. They rode on. I straightened up, my back protesting, and caught Sarah's eye across the row. She gave me a tiny nod, as if to say, "You survived." That evening, something unexpected happened. We were gathered in the quarters after dark when old Joseph himself appeared in the doorway of our cabin. He looked smaller somehow, as if the knowledge of his impending sale had diminished him. "I heard what you did, Miriam," he said, his voice wavering. "Heard you spoke up for me." I stood up, embarrassed. It didn't help. "I'm sorry. Didn't help." His eyes filled with tears. "Child, it helped more than you know. All my life, I've been telling folks to have faith, to trust in the Lord, to believe we matter in God's eyes even if we don't matter to men. But sometimes I wondered if I was lying to them and to myself. Then you went and proved it true, that we do matter enough to risk everything for each other. That's faith in action, child. That's love." He came closer and placed his weathered hand on my head, the way a grandfather might bless a grandchild. "You found your voice. Don't you ever lose it again. Even if you have to whisper it, even if you have to hide it sometimes to survive, don't let them take it from you. Promise me." "I promise," I whispered. He was taken away the next morning, loaded into a wagon while we watched from a distance. Annie sobbed openly. Mary's face was stone. Sarah whispered prayers under her breath. And I stood there, feeling the weight of my promise to Joseph, knowing that I had started something I couldn't stop. The week in the fields changed me. My hands hardened, my back strengthened, and I learned the rhythms of that brutal work. But more importantly, I learned who I was among my people, not apart from them. In the big house, I had been isolated, separated from community. In the fields, despite the suffering, there was fellowship. There were songs at the end of the day, shared burdens, quiet conversations that built connections stronger than any chains. On the 7th day, as Edmund had said, Mr. Garrett came to me. "Master wants you back in the house. Says you've learned your lesson." Had I? I wasn't sure what lesson he thought I'd learned. Perhaps he thought I'd been humbled, reminded of my place. But what I'd actually learned was different. I'd learned that my people were stronger than I'd imagined, that solidarity was possible even in the darkest places, and that speaking truth, even when it seems futile, matters. I returned to the big house, to my duties serving breakfast and cleaning rooms. But I wasn't the same Miriam who had left. I carried the fields with me now, carried my promise to Joseph, carried the knowledge that I had a voice and it could be heard. Edmund treated me differently too. He watched me warily, as if I'd become unpredictable. There were no more casual dismissals, no more talking about me as if I weren't there. He never looked me directly in the eye, but he seemed aware of me in a new way, as a person who might have thoughts and feelings that mattered, even if he didn't want to acknowledge them. Constance noticed the change. "Edmund," she said one morning at breakfast, "why does Miriam make you so uncomfortable now?" "She doesn't," he said too quickly.
She does.
"You practically jump when she enters the room." He set down his coffee cup with more force than necessary. Richard was right about her. She's got ideas. She thinks she's something she's not. What does she think she is? "Human," he said, and the word came out like an accusation. Constance laughed, that empty, tinkling laugh of hers. "Well, she is human, darling. Even you can't deny that. It's not about what she is. It's about what she knows she is. That's dangerous." I stood against the wall, holding the coffee pot, listening to them discuss me as if I were still invisible. But I wasn't invisible anymore. Not to myself. And that made all the difference. "No," I said finally. "Not yet. But maybe someday. Right now, I need to stay. I need to keep using my voice here for those who can't leave." Mary nodded, understanding. "Then use it loud," she said. "Use it for all of us." She left the following week, slipping away in the darkness. I prayed she made it to freedom. I prayed that somewhere Joseph was still alive, still singing, still believing. And I stayed. I stayed, and I spoke. Not always, not recklessly. I wasn't trying to be a martyr. But when it mattered, when I could make a difference, I let my voice be heard. I advocated for better food, for warmer blankets, for mercy when Mr. Garrett wanted to punish someone for minor infractions. Sometimes I was ignored. Sometimes I was threatened. But sometimes, not often, but sometimes I was heard. Master Edmund never acknowledged what had changed between us. But he knew. Everyone knew. I was no longer the silent shadow in the corner. I was Miriam Brooks of Alabama, and I had a voice. The war dragged on. The world trembled and shifted. And I stood in that big house, pouring coffee and clearing plates, carrying inside me the knowledge that I was human, that I mattered, that my voice, however small, however constrained, was mine. He thought I had no voice. He thought he could keep me silent through fear, through oppression, through the systematic crushing of my humanity. But he was wrong. I found my voice the day I stopped believing his lie. And once found, it could never be taken from me again. No chains could silence the Tentar Novamenti, HD, Continuer, truth that lived inside me, that I was not property, not furniture, not silence itself made flesh. I was a woman with thoughts that mattered, with feelings that were real, with a story that deserved to be told. The years of war brought hardship to everyone, even those in the big house. Food became scarce. Supplies ran low. The confident swagger of men like Edmund Thornhill began to crack as news came of Union victories, of enslaved people fleeing to northern lines, of a world order crumbling beneath their feet. I watched it all with a careful eye, still performing my duties, but now with an awareness that everything was temporary. The permanence they had tried to impose on us, the forever nature of our bondage, was revealed as the lie it had always been. One afternoon in the spring of 1863, Edmund called me into his study. I went, as always, but I walked in with my head up, my eyes clear. He sat behind his desk, and for the first time since I'd known him, he looked small to me, diminished. "Miriam," he said, and there was something in his voice I'd never heard before. It might have been respect. It might have been resignation. I want you to know that whatever happens, when this war ends, however it ends, I won't forget what you said to me. That night you came to my door. I waited, saying nothing. I still don't agree with you, he continued. I still believe there's a natural order to things. But you made me uncomfortable. You made me think about things I didn't want to think about. And I suppose that's worth something. It's worth everything, I said quietly. Thinking about uncomfortable things is how people change, how the world changes. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded once and dismissed me. I never knew if Edmund Thornhill truly changed in his heart, but I knew that I had changed him in some small way, had planted a seed of doubt in the certainty of his worldview. And that was more than I'd thought possible on that morning when I first looked his cousin in the eye. The months that followed were strange and difficult. I walked a razor's edge between assertion and survival. I continued my duties, but I no longer performed them with the absolute silence I once had. When asked to do something impossible, to complete tasks that required more hours than existed in a day, I would say, quietly but clearly, I can't do both. Which would you prefer I do first? The first time I said this, Constance looked shocked. But Edmund, interestingly, just gave a curt nod and made a choice. I think he preferred this new dynamic to the uncertainty of whether I might explode again with uncomfortable truths. I tested other boundaries too. Small ones. When Constance complained about the tea being cold, I would say, "I'll bring a fresh pot," instead of just silently rushing to do so. When Edmund asked me a direct question, I answered with full sentences instead of "yes, sir," or "no, sir." I looked up when spoken to instead of keeping my eyes fixed on the floor. These were tiny rebellions, barely noticeable to anyone who hadn't known the old Miriam. But to me, each one was a revolutionary act. Each one was a choice to be present, to be seen, to be a person rather than a shadow. The other enslaved people in the quarters noticed. Some were inspired, others were frightened for me. Mary became my closest confidant. She told me about the whispers she'd heard of escape routes, of conductors who helped people north, of a star to follow and safe houses along the way. "Would you go?" she asked me one night. "If you had the chance?" I thought about it. Freedom. The word still felt foreign in my mouth, like a language I'd never been taught to speak. "I don't know," I admitted. "This place is all I know. These people are my family. How do you leave everything you've ever known, even when it's terrible?" "You leave because staying kills you," Mary said. "Maybe not your body, but your soul. And you've already started leaving, Miriam. You've already stepped outside the cage, even if your body's still in it." She was right. I had changed. I couldn't go back to being the silent ghost I'd been before. But I also couldn't fully imagine what freedom would look like. I existed in a liminal space, no longer fully enslaved in my mind, even while my body remained in bondage. Then, one cold November morning, everything shifted again. Constance was ill, a fever that had kept her in bed for 3 days. I brought her tea and broth, changed her sheets, sat with her when Edmund was away managing the plantation. In her fever, she became almost human to me. She talked about her childhood in Charleston, about a brother who had died young, about how lonely she was in this big house with a husband who treated her like furniture. "You must think I'm weak," she said one afternoon, her voice thin. "I see you, Miriam. I see how strong you are. You work all day and never complain. I can barely manage to get dressed without help. We're strong because we have to be, I said, the words coming out before I could censor them. You're weak because you're allowed to be. She turned her fevered eyes to me. Do you hate me? I could have said yes. I could have stayed silent. Instead, I told her the truth. I don't know you well enough to hate you. You've never seen me enough to be hated by me. I see you now, she whispered. Only because you're ill and vulnerable, I replied. Tomorrow, when you're well, you'll go back to looking through me. No, she said, and she reached out and took my hand, the first time she'd ever touched me deliberately. No, I won't. I promise I won't. I didn't believe her, but her hand in mine was warm, and for a moment, across the vast divide of race and station and power, we were just two women sitting together in a room. Constance recovered, and true to my prediction, she went back to her old ways, mostly. But every once in a while, she would look at me, really look at me, and I would see recognition in her eyes. It wasn't friendship, it wasn't equality, but it was acknowledgement. Winter came, hard and cold. The cabin was freezing at night. We huddled together for warmth, telling stories to keep our spirits up. I told them about Joseph, about his blessing, about the promise I'd made to keep my voice. And slowly, others began to find their voices too. Small acts of assertion, tiny moments of visibility. It was like watching flowers push up through frozen ground. Master Edmund grew more tense as the months passed. The war everyone had been whispering about seemed closer now. There were rumors of conflict over slavery, of states seceding, of a nation tearing itself apart. Edmund talked to other plantation owners about their fears. What would happen to their property if the North won? How would they maintain control? I listened to these conversations and felt something like hope stirring in my chest. Maybe the world was changing. Maybe the voice I had found was part of a larger chorus, rising across the South, across the nation, demanding to be heard. One evening in early spring, I was standing in the parlor, waiting to serve dinner, when Edmund came in with a newspaper. His face was grave. It started, he said to Constance. Fort Sumter. We're at war. I felt my heart quicken. War meant uncertainty, chaos, and chaos meant possibility. That night, Mary came to me with news. There's a conductor coming through next week. He can take 2 people north. I'm going. Will you come with me? I looked around the cabin at the women who had become my family. I thought about Sarah's kindness, Annie's youth, all the others who had remained behind. I thought about my mother's grave in the far corner of the property, about every moment of my life that had happened within these few acres. When the war finally ended, when word came that we were free, the world erupted in jubilation and terror both. Free, but free to do what? Free to go where? We had no money, no land, no education, no resources. Freedom was real, but it was also abstract. A door opened onto an uncertain landscape. Some left immediately. Others stayed, not knowing where else to go. I stayed too, at first. Not because I wanted to serve the Thornhills any longer, but because I needed time to think, to plan, to figure out what freedom meant for me. Constance came to me a week after the announcement. Will you stay? She asked, and there was genuine anxiety in her voice. We'll pay you now. Not much, but something. I don't know yet, I told her honestly. I need to figure out who I am when I'm not your property. She nodded, and I saw tears in her eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered. For all of it. I know it doesn't change anything, but I'm sorry. I accepted her apology, not because it healed anything, but because it was offered. Some wounds are too deep for apologies to reach, but acknowledgement is still worth something. In the end, I left the Thornhill plantation that summer. I walked away from the only home I'd ever known, carrying a small bundle of belongings and a heart full of complicated emotions. I was terrified and exhilarated in equal measure. I went immobile first, where I found work as a seamstress. I rented a tiny room in a boarding house and learned what it meant to earn money, to make choices, to exist in the world as myself. It was harder than I'd imagined and more wonderful than I'd dared to hope. I never saw Mary again, but I heard through others that she'd made it to Philadelphia, that she'd married and had children, that she was free in every sense of the word. I like to imagine her voice ringing out without fear, making up for all the years of silence. Eventually, I learned to read and write. It took me 3 years of patient study with a Friedman school teacher who held evening classes. The first time I wrote my own name, Miriam Brooks, in clear letters on paper, I wept. My name, written by my own hand. Proof that I existed, that I mattered, that I could leave a mark on the world. I married eventually, a good man named Thomas who had been enslaved in Mississippi and had walked hundreds of miles to freedom. We built a small life together, nothing grand, but it was ours. We had 2 daughters, and I raised them to know their worth, to use their voices, to never let anyone convince them they were less than fully human. I told them stories about their grandmother Grace, about old Joseph and his songs, about Mary who followed the North Star to freedom. I told them about the day I looked a white man in the eye and refused to be invisible. I told them about finding my voice in a world that wanted me silent. Mama, my youngest daughter asked me once, when she was about 10 years old, "Were you afraid when you spoke up?" Terrified, I told her honestly, more afraid than I'd ever been in my life. Then why did you do it? I thought about that question. Why had I done it? It hadn't freed me immediately. It hadn't saved Joseph. It hadn't toppled the system of slavery. So why? Because I said finally, there are some things more frightening than punishment or pain. And one of them is disappearing completely, losing yourself so thoroughly that even you forget you're real. I spoke up because staying silent was killing me, piece by piece. And I decided I'd rather risk everything than lose myself entirely. She nodded, understanding in her young face. "I'll remember that, Mama." "Good," I said. "Remember it and live it. The world will try to silence you in all kinds of ways. Sometimes it will use violence, sometimes it will use shame, sometimes it will just try to convince you that your voice doesn't matter. But it does matter. You matter. Don't ever forget that." I lived a long life, longer than I ever expected to, given where I started. I saw the world change in ways both wonderful and terrible. Slavery ended, but racism didn't. Freedom came, but equality lagged far behind. Still, every small victory, every black child in school, every black man voting, every black woman speaking her mind without fear, felt like a continuation of what began that night I knocked on Edmund Thornhill's door. Now, as I sit in my small house in Mobile, an old woman with gray hair and hands gnarled by years of work, I think about the journey from silence to voice. It wasn't a single moment, despite what the stories might suggest. It was 1,000 small choices, 1,000 tiny acts of courage, 1,000 times I chose to be visible instead of invisible, present instead of absent, human instead of silent. I think about the girl I was, standing against the dining room wall with empty eyes and folded hands, and I want to reach back through time and tell her, "You're real. You matter. Your voice is worth hearing, even if they never listen, especially if they never listen." Because the truest thing I learned in all those years is this: you don't find your voice so that others will hear you. You find your voice so that you can hear yourself, so that you can know deep in your bones that you exist, that you matter, that you are not what they tried to make you. Edmund Thornhill thought I had no voice because he never bothered to listen. But the voice was always there, waiting inside me like a seed in frozen ground, ready to push through into the light the moment conditions allowed. And when it finally broke free, nothing could silence it again. Not fear, not punishment, not all the weight of a world designed to keep me quiet. My voice was mine. My story was mine. My life, finally, was mine. They tried to write me out of existence, to reduce me to silence and shadow. But I am Miriam Brooks of Alabama, and I spoke my truth into the darkness until it became light, and no one can ever take that away from me. I thought I had no voice, but I was wrong. I had it all along. I just had to remember I was worth listening to.